bass. You did that? You got it. I think you got it. Hope you'll keep right in the corner of that. Huh? Oh, damn it, he got off.
You know, fishing a bass tournament's not that easy. In this episode, I'm going to share the footage of this last bass tournament that I fished, talk about some of the things that helped me be successful, and finish in the money. Stay tuned.
Shane Flynn Outdoors, brought to you by Omnia Fishing. Experience the most personalized tackle shopping on earth. Also by Bent Rod Fishing. Get bent, stay bent.
Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo! What a big girl! Hey everybody, thanks for stopping back by. Today we're going to look at some footage from my last bass tournament out of Lake Eufaula, Alabama. Also, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how I get prepared for a bass tournament and the way I break down a bass tournament. And go over a few things that help me be successful when I go out bass fishing in a bass tournament, in a live bass tournament. So, you know, this was a 2-day fishing tournament. It was on the 21st and 22nd of October down in Lake Eufaula, Alabama. It was with Lunker's Bass Club. They're out of Panama City, Florida. They fished there in Florida, northern Florida, southern Georgia, southern Alabama. Just a great club, a great bunch of guys, and some really great fishermen. They've been fishing for years and years and years, and they're very, very competitive. So it was a, like I said, 2-day tournament. I went down for a pre-fish day. Met up with Gary from Gary's Fish Tales. If you're not following him, please give him a subscribe at Gary's Fish Tales. The link is in the description. But he and I have been fishing together for over 30 years, so it's a really good combo of me and him in the boat. We get along really well, and we get on the fish typically. But you know, right before I get into the pre-fish here and get into day 1 and day 2, I want to talk about some of the ways that I get prepared for a bass tournament. And one of the first things I do is I do a lot of research, and I've been knowing this tournament's coming for quite a few months. So I've been looking at, you know, Googling the lake, looking at YouTube videos in October, that's filmed in October on Lake Eufaula, and just getting any key bits of information, recalling the information that I had from last year as well. You know, I did fish this tournament last year. I did end up 3rd place last year, but to be honest with you, I got lucky, got on some fish at the end of the day, and then the first thing the following morning that propelled me into 3rd place. Now that's always good, that's fishing, but I'd like to have a better plan. So I did a lot more studying and getting a little bit more information on the lake. Now, one of the key things for me in this year for preparation was I'm an Omnia ambassador, and I do fishing reports. Well, there's a lot of Omnia ambassadors that do fishing reports on Lake Eufaula, Alabama. So I went to those fishing reports and got a lot of key information that I was able to use and determine some places to go fishing during this tournament. Because I'll tell you, my pre-fish day wasn't all that great. We'll get to that in just a minute. But I utilized that information to find out what the hot baits were and some of the locations that those folks were catching fish. Lake Eufaula is huge, right? I think from the dam up to the back part of the Chattahoochee might be 55 miles. And it's at least 5 or 6 miles, 7 miles wide, or even wider in places. So it's a really big lake, and it's hard. If you don't live there, if you don't fish it often, it's hard to figure out where to catch fish. So, you know, I did that, got that preparation done. And, you know, one of the things that I think about when I get ready for bass fishing is I always break down a day of bass fishing in a bass tournament in pretty much into a math problem. Let me explain that. What I do is I think about catching those 5 quality bass. And to catch those fish, you have to cover a lot of water to increase the probability of getting your bait in front of the fish, active fish, and cast. The more cast, the more cast you have, increases your opportunity to get more bites. I really believe that. That's kind of the way I've fished my whole life. But that doesn't mean you don't slow down. You let the fishing tell you to slow down or not. So sometimes, depending on the lures you're catching fish on, will tell you how fast to fish. And know if you get on a school of fish, you hunker down and catch everything in that school that matters for your limit. So, but you know, there's factors that are part of that equation, right? Factors you can control and factors you cannot control. The factors you can control, and I highly recommend folks, when you get ready to go out and fish a live bass fishing tournament in a boat, right? Make sure you have all your equipment ready. Make sure everything works. Make sure you have all your right lures. The worst thing in the world is get out there and you bring a fishing rod and reel with you that you backlash all the time, and you just waste time with that. So put yourself in a position to maximize your time on the water and have everything ready. All right, the other thing I tell you is recognize a pattern if you get on one. I feel like in this last tournament, there was a pattern for me to catch more fish. I just failed to recognize it in time and then ran out of that quality area that I was really in the pattern. I really didn't run out, I just didn't know any more places to go. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But the other thing that you control is your attitude, right? You gotta stay positive. You gotta stay focused. You gotta keep a good state of mind, because it can be hours between bites. And if you're not focused, you'll miss that key bite. You know, that's been 2 hours since your last one, but you always wanna be ready and stay focused and stay positive. Don't get down on yourself. Believe in your fishing abilities, and you can really get out there and catch some fish. The other thing I'll tell you on the things you can't control the weather, can't control the water clarity, can't control the temperature. You just have to adjust to all those things. And for us, we had a cold front move through on practice morning that really threw us for a curveball, but I've been fishing a long time, so I know cold front moves through, we're gonna find objects that bass like to snug up against, right? So, and we did that. We'll see that in just a minute. But that's just kind of my mindset when I get out there going fishing for a tournament. I do my research, do my planning, keep a positive attitude, kind of figure out those areas that we want to fish, get through them as quickly as possible, see if you can catch your fish and move to the next quality area, or come back and fish it again with something else. So that's kind of my way of getting through a fishing tournament. A lot of times it's worked, sometimes it doesn't, right? So it's just part of it. The other factor you can't control is the fish that are biting. So anyways, that's just kind of my breakdown of it. So let's just jump into talking about the fishing itself. So I did have a pre-fish day, and we got there right at the break of dawn, and right around 8:30, we had a cold front move through. I mean, we drove towards the cold front. We went up to Chattahoochee Route, about 17 miles north from our boat ramp. And as we're driving north, we drove through the cold front. We could feel the air cooling down and got into the rain. And that was really a factor for us fishing that day, because I absolutely blanked. I caught nothing on pre-fish day. Now, the other side of this is we were planning on going to the south part of the lake to look at some other areas, but the wind was so high, there was just big giant whack caps on the lake. It just was not worth the risk of fishing in that high wind. We had 25, 30 mile an hour winds. It was so tough to get a boat across. We just decided to stay up to Chattahoochee in the river, away from all the wind, and maybe find some hot bites up that way. Well, we didn't. I think Gary caught 3 smalls and maybe 1 keeper, about I think he caught a 14 incher, 14 and a half incher. But you know, it wasn't for naught, because every one of the fish that Gary caught, he caught on the same thing. And that was a square bill crankbait or a shallow running crankbait. So that was a good indicator for me, knowing that if the bass were gonna hit something in a cold front, they're gonna hit a shallow running crankbait. So I took that into consideration for day 1. And so on day 1, we ended up running from the boat ramp 21 miles south to the Petula Creek to start our fishing. Let's just jump in and look at some of this action.
I've been honing in on it. I see fishing pole holders.
Yes, yes.
Got one.
Yeah?
Yep.
Yep.
Yes. Yes, 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 yes.
Oh, nice. Good catch, by the way.
Good catch. First one today, looks like a solid 3-pounder. So paid off this long run. We did a 35, 40-minute run this morning. So caught him on the crankbait.
That's a good catch. Yeah, I wanted actually close to the mouth. There was something like that brush with a tree.
I didn't see it. It was a bass. Did you see him come up?
I hit something, but it wasn't a bass earlier, and but there's a tree there. I didn't see the bass. But
You didn't see the fish?
no, I didn't see. I was looking at my cast, and then I was ducking up for my deer.
Yeah, that was about a 2-pounder. I missed him.
I called these dog guys because I see all these rod holders.
Probably do have to certify them or something.
I don't know what they're doing. I'm putting on.
Okay.
Figuring there's gotta be.
Should I get this bass?
You got them? All right. You swinging them?
I'm gonna swing.
Oh,
Ow, ow, ow! You got the hook in me.
you okay?
Nope. Caught him on a crankbait. The crankbait got my leg. But hey, that's second bass in the live well, so our plan is paying off.
So as you can see, we were hitting the boat docks on Petula Creek. That was my plan. I got that information from an Omni Ambassador fishing report that the fishing was pretty good on boat docks in the southern part of the lake. So we started there on Petula Creek. I looked at the imagery and found those boat docks. But here's the thing, we ran out of boat docks. But I did catch that 4-pounder. That first bass was just over 4. I think it was 4.37 if I'm not mistaken when we weighed it in. It was the second big bass of the tournament. Had another keeper, had a keeper get off, right? But the key information that I got from the pre-fishing was that shallow running crankbait, which I fished the Hybrid Hunter, which is a 5 foot diving crankbait, is actually in this color. I think this is the sweet shad color. And that was the bait that I caught the first 2 keepers on of the day. And so kind of got a little, ran out of boat docks and didn't know where we wanted to go next. So we did some ledge fishing in some areas that we just kind of looked on the map because we were already way down south in the lake. And we had to run back up north. So we decided to move our way north, hit some ledges, then we hit a riprap, then we hit some bridge pilings. We didn't do any good on those. Now later on we figured out that we were not fishing deep enough on the bridge pilings, but we learned from that and fixed that for the second day. But then we ran up to the only other place that we knew. Now, what I didn't tell you, the other thing in the pre-fish day, the place that I caught most of my bass on last year was not any good anymore because the water level had dropped 2.5 feet in the lily pads and the areas where the water was only that deep. So it didn't hold any bass. But there's only one other place that we did catch bass on last year. It was on a ledge. And you can see here on Google Maps, this is where we went to catch a couple more fish. Check it out.
You may get me or you may not.
What? I didn't hear you.
There's on. Oh, nice one. This is a keeper.
Is it a keeper?
Yeah, I might need the net.
Okay, coming.
Oh, net. Big spot. I'll bring him to you. Hang on. Hold on.
Oh, got him. Oh.
Spot locked.
Tough spot, that's a lot of bait out there.
Okay. 1:30, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I got the skunk off. We have a nice fish in the live well. This extra line was in the net. 2.5, 3 pounds. So I'm gonna put him in the live well. And it feels so good to get that skunk off.
Spotted bass. You only have to be 12 here. It's my third fish. And he is 13. And the live well goes. Got him on the Kitech Easy Shiner.
So as you can see, the ledge got 2 more keepers in the boat. One for Gary, that was he got a nice 3-pounder on that ledge. That was his only fish for the day. And I got my third keeper in the boat with about a 12.5-inch spot, which, spots are, the size limit is 12 on Lake Eufaula for spots, 14 for largemouth. So mine was about 12.5, 13 inches, which, hey, it's a fish in the live well, right? But that ended our day. We had a 10-hour day and it was a grind. I mean, we caught a couple other little small fish that they didn't put in there and lost a few. I think Gary even caught a crappie, he caught a mudfish, but that was pretty much all the keepers we got for day 1. I had 3 going into the weigh-in on the first day. Little nervous, I thought there would be a lot of limits. It was really tough, but when I got to the boat ramp, I realized everybody else had rough days too. So we did have 1 limit, but it was the limit of smalls, right there at the 12.5, 13 inches. It put the individual into second place. I was in third place, and then first place had 4 fish. So no limits, And it was pretty close, pretty tight, and I realized that everybody was having tough times. And went back and had to figure out what we're gonna do for day 2. So we discussed it. We talked about some other boat docks that I found on Lake Eufaula. Not far. We didn't have as long on day 2. You only had 8 hours of fishing, and we wanted to maximize not running all the way down to the end of the lake. It took us 45 minutes to run down south, at least 45 minutes. So we wanted to be a little bit more quicker where we wanted to get to and get more fishing in versus riding in a boat. So I found a few boat docks around a creek, but they were not really good ones. Actually, they were really, really deep, didn't have the right depth. But we fished them first thing in the morning, and then we pulled up and decided to fish the bluff wall and the bridge pilings that we'd heard that the fish were much deeper on. And that's where we start the day on day 2. So take a look at how we did when we got onto the bridge pilings.
That one.
All right. Is that?
No.
Pretty good. As long as it's 12 inches. Oh, it's not a large one.
That's a spot.
Is it?
I think so.
All right.
I will get that.
All right. Definitely. Unless it's a large one.
It's not a large. I can tell by looking at that now. Yeah, I see that raspy tongue.
Good.
So number 2, got this guy on the Kitech. They're down there chasing shad, and we're just trying to pick them off.
Another one? Wow.
Let's get that.
Okay. I got it. Yeah. Oh. Shane struck onto something with the swim bait, so I did switch to a swim bait. I had taken it off earlier yesterday, but
Another chunky monkey. Nice spot. Kitech Easy Shiner. You see me fish it all the time. Putting them in the boat here today for sure.
So day 2, the morning, sitting there on the bridge pilings, I've got 3 spots that I caught there. One, pretty nice spots, pound and a halfers. Nothing to complain about. There's 3 bass in the boat. We decided to go down and fish the next bridge, which is only about a quarter mile away. There's a railroad bridge and a highway bridge. So we fished the other one. I got 1 little small bass on that. And then we were sitting there scratching our head. We fished the riprap a little bit, and then another little inlet creek that came in and nothing. So we scratched our head a little bit. I got on my phone, I looked at the map, and I was like, wait, there's some boat docks between these 2 ripraps, between these 2, the railroad bridge and the highway bridge. So I said, let's go try it out. There was a deep hole we stopped at first. Did some, fishing on that little ledge that was there. But then we went down to the boat ramps, or the boat docks. And as you can see here, it started out pretty good, but there was some fortunate events that took place. Check it out.
oh, we're on. Yeah, I gotta bring up the motor. Huh?
It's shallow.
Motors.
I got a bass. Open. Yes. Damn it.
I'm trying to bring up the motor.
I know. You got in your polo. That was a keeper. That was a good keeper.
Yeah, I know. That was a nice one. I'm trying to fix the damn motor.
Yep. Big one.
Oh, damn. Oh, that was a nice one. That's two. Yeah. I don't know. What's wrong with your hook there, dude? That was a nice one.
That was a 4 or 5 pounder right there.
That was a very nice one.
That was number 5 right there that should have been in the boat.
It should have been.
And that was
Yep.
the kicker I needed. So as you can see there, as soon as we pulled up, I hooked into probably a 2 or 3 pounder, at least 2, maybe even 3 plus, but you know, got away, got caught up in Gary's rod. It was just an accident, right? It's, you know, one of the things kind of back that, be prepared, you know, don't have poles hanging out, but you never know. It's no one's fault. Fish jumped in the pole, got my line around the pole and lost tension on the line and got off. Now that second bass that I missed, where I gave myself a pump in the chest there, that was the kicker I needed. I wanted that 2 or 3 pounder. If I'd have landed that bass, Gary and I both seen that bass very clearly. It was at least 5, maybe in between the 5 and 6, 7 pound class bass, which would have definitely tipped the scales in my favor. And I can tell you now I won with that bass easily. But that's fishing. I did my part. I set the hook. I didn't get the hook and he got away. But you know, sometimes you just got to be prepared. That's fishing. You gotta give it to the fish every once in a while. But man, I was not happy. But we ended up today, we went back up to the ledge where we caught the 2 keepers yesterday, fished that ledge for about an hour and a half, made a couple of passes on it, and to no avail. We got no more fish. I was really bummed. I thought for sure I'd need a limit on day 2. But when I got to the boat ramp, again, I discovered that everyone had a rough day, and there was no more limits. No one had a limit. We had one guy with 4, that was Buddy. He ended up coming in first. The guy that was in first dropped to second, and my fish were enough to keep me in 3rd place for the tournament. So it was a hard, long 2-day tournament, but you know, staying persistent, staying on those casting, you know, casting, trying to get into quality water was really important to help me get into that 3rd place position. Now I talked about the pattern that I missed. If you haven't figured it out yet, I should have been on more boat docks. I got my big fish in the morning, on morning 1 on the boat docks, and then I missed those 2 that would have won the tournament for me on boat docks. Now, you know, one of the things we did learn about boat docks is not all boat docks are created equal. We learned that boat docks that people fish from, which had pole holders and looked like they've been sitting there fishing on them, usually may have brush in front of them because they're crappie fishing or something like that. And those were the most productive boat docks. The ones floating on the water and people were fishing on them. A lot of boat docks are raised up in the air. They're just poles. We didn't catch anything on that. But later this week, when I reached out to an Omni ambassador, he goes, Shane, Petula Creek's pretty good, but if you drove exactly west across the lake, the best boat docks, and more of them, are over there on that side of the lake. And I looked on the imagery, I was like, how did I miss that? We were 5 minutes from them. But that's fishing, right? I learned that, now I know that for next year, that there's some really good boat docks across on the west side of the lake for next year. But, you know, there again, that's fishing. I'm happy with the results, and I love fishing with those guys from Lunkers. They're a great club, and I want to thank Gary from Gary's Fish Tales for letting me fish out of his boat. I let him fish out of my boat when he's up here, and we've been doing that for years, and it was a good time. Unfortunately, if you don't know, it's not a team tournament, so Gary and I are competing against each other in the boat. But again, we've been fishing for so long, we know when to let another person run the boat, etc. So it works out real well. So if you're going to go out and fish a live bass tournament, and you know I have my virtual tournaments, these are for the weekend fishermen. We do these for the weekend fishermen who doesn't have the time or resources to get out there and fish in a local club or a big bass tournament. It's to have fun. It sometimes is not that much fun when you fish a bass tournament. I'll just be honest with you. It is a grind. But when you get done with it and you look back, you can see the joy in it. But if you don't want to go do it, just do our virtual tournaments. They're fun. You can do it on your own time. There's no pressure. So that's something to keep in mind. Well, hey guys, thank you so much for stopping in and enjoying this episode. New episodes coming out soon. And by the way, this is coming to the end of our virtual tournament season, and I'll get another virtual tournament season stood up and advertised in the next 30 to 60 days. So until next time, folks, tight lines and good luck fishing.